China's crackdown on dissent is getting more extreme and bizarre by the day. In an outrageous abuse of power, the pro-Beijing leader of Hong Kong has announced a bounty on the heads of 8 pro-democracy activists. John Lee says he'll pay $200,000 for the capture of each one. And it's not an idle threat. He's promised to hunt them down and make them suffer for the rest of their living days. Thankfully, the dissidents have found refuge outside of China, including 2 now in Australia. But that doesn't lessen the fear they feel. They are the most unassuming fugitives. But make no mistake, Kevin Yam and Ted Hui are wanted men, targets of China's communist regime with a price on their heads. All because they dared to stand up for democracy and freedom. So sitting in front of me, you are 2 of the most wanted men in Hong Kong.
Yes, I assume.
Can you believe it?
I never imagined being in this position myself back when I first joined politics. It's unbelievable.
Thank you very much. This looks really nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin, a lawyer, and Ted, a former politician, are 2 of 8 Hong Kong dissidents declared enemies of the state in an audacious move by the pro-Beijing rulers of the former British territory. I mean, what would they have to fear from you, from the 2 of you?
I would have thought there's nothing to fear from us. I mean, we're as boring as can be, really.
I mean, it's not fear. You know, authoritarian regimes, they just don't enjoy criticisms. They don't like it. They won't silence you because you're in the way, you're a pain. So I think that's why, basically, so that they can stay in power forever.
Now, Hong Kong's National Security Department has issued a bounty.
If the Hong Kong authorities intended to send shockwaves around the world, they succeeded. A $200,000 bounty placed on the heads of 8 pro-democracy activists that Hong Kong's chief executive, John Lee, has charmingly taken to describing as street rats.
The only way for a wanted individual to end their life on the run is through surrender. Otherwise, they will be wanted for life, living in constant fear of arrest and living their days in anxiety.
The dissidents were part of the protests that swept Hong Kong in 2019. But what's extraordinary is that all of them are now living in exile overseas, in the UK, the US and Canada, and here in Australia. Even more galling, Kevin is an Australian citizen. Kevin, how did you find out there was a bounty out for your head?
I was actually watching a YouTube clip of Pat Cummins' victory press conference from the Lord's cricket test. And then halfway through, a Twitter notification came up. Someone tagged me saying that there's an arrest warrant on me for collusion with foreign forces. That's how I found out.
What?
Yeah. So basically, I had Paddy Cummins for company when I found out that I had a bounty over my head.
Can't get more Australian than that. Yeah. I mean, you're laughing about it, but how did it feel?
It felt weird. And the first thing that came to my mind was a lot of my friends in Hong Kong who are currently in jail. And it almost feels like we are no longer just escaping the persecution, we are with them.
Kevin grew up here, but for 17 years he carved out a successful legal career in Hong Kong, where he became a mild-mannered campaigner for democracy and the rule of law.
My day job in Hong Kong was a big end-of-town financial services lawyer. By rights, I should be one of the establishment people. And now I'm, as John Lee likes to call us, the street rats.
In the middle of a well-to-do Adelaide suburb is an enormous and hugely controversial Chinese consulate. Surrounded by security fences and bristling with CCTV cameras, this is as close to Chinese territory as Ted Hui dares to get.
This is quite the compound. It's huge.
It's huge. It's the largest one in the world.
The largest Chinese consulate in the world here in little old Adelaide.
It's a spy center, so it's spying on, Australians' defense facilities. Now they can be spying on me.
But I mean, it really smacks you in the face, doesn't it?
Yes, but at the same time, I'm smacking them in the face that I'm walking outside, and I'm not afraid.
Ted has never feared poking the bear. As a pro-democracy politician, he battled for Hong Kong's freedoms at great personal cost. A leading figure in protests on the streets, he's been arrested many times. Speaking here at the gates of this compound is just another act of defiance.
One step inside, then my life is over. But I need them to know that Hong Kongers are still here. We're still speaking up for freedom and democracy, even we are away, even we are in exile.
But as the father of 2 kids, it's the security of his family that worries Ted the most.
They can really do terrible things, taking kids, kidnapping. It happened to many dissidents overseas, so it can happen to me.
Scary thought.
It's not very likely, but it's possible for, criminals hired by the regimes to do that. So I would be cautious about that.
I'd like to now introduce Kevin Yan.
As for Kevin, it may have been a video appearance before the US Congress earlier this month that saw him accused of collusion with a foreign country. But the truth is, he has no idea why he's now among Hong Kong's most wanted.
If only I knew. I mean, I wouldn't have thought that a nerd who just likes talking about a lot of stuff would be a threat to them.
This is the thing. I mean, you're living an ordinary life here in Melbourne, an Australian citizen.
Yeah, that's right.
Enjoying the footy on the weekend with your friends.
Yep.
And suddenly you find yourself on a Chinese hit list.
I think they're just scared of everything, right? As far as they're concerned, anything can be a threat.
These are thought crimes, essentially, and speech crimes. So if we think in the Australian context, we should lock up John Howard for Iraq, or we should lock up Dan Andrews for COVID restrictions. And we take that as part of normal political discourse, right? Whereas in Hong Kong, they're saying that you're colluding with foreign forces and therefore you should go to jail for that. And what makes it worse is that the allegations they made against me all relate to things that I did while I'm in Australia as an Australian citizen, exercising my democratic rights of free speech. And that's just absolutely ludicrous.
It's a bit of a catch-all phrase, isn't it? National security law. You don't quite know where the red line is.
Whatever they don't like, they say it's national security. Anything can be national security, right?
These days, Hong Kong's hardliners appear to view speaking up for democracy as a crime worse than rape or murder. And as you'll see, they make no apologies for chasing down perceived troublemakers wherever they are in the world.
We don't seek to exterminate them. In fact, if they go through our correctional services system, we will try to rehabilitate them.
So Hong Kong, in your view, has the right to target pro-democracy activists in other countries?
They call Regina Ip Hong Kong's Iron Lady, a staunchly pro-Beijing politician who's fully behind the hard line being taken against those who speak up for freedom. Why did Hong Kong put bounties on the heads of 8 people?
We didn't use the word bounty. The word bounty, it sounds like Clint Eastwood movie. These are people who have been allegedly involved in serious criminal activities, collusion with foreign government, or external elements, and incitement of regime change. Regime change is overthrow of the government. These are all serious national security offenses.
Hong Kong's catch-all national security law was brought in to crush the pro-democracy protests that raged for months. What's different now, 3 years on, is the projection of that law overseas, to anywhere pro-democracy activists might be.
We aren't dealing with revolutionaries here. We're dealing with ordinary people attempting to exercise ordinary civil political rights. And that's why it's such an astounding overreach by Hong Kong.
Journalist and author Richard McGregor is a China analyst with the Lowy Institute. For all his years of expertise, he's still stunned by the sheer audacity of Hong Kong's move. What does Beijing have to fear from these 8 dissidents, these 8 political activists?
Well, that's the remarkable thing about all this. Why would you do this? What do they have to fear? This is the way of the current chief executive, John Lee, to prove to China that he's tougher than tough. And I think he wanted to do that, and he wanted to make a big splash at the same time, and he certainly succeeded.
So this is a bid to impress Big Brother?
Absolutely. I mean, they want to prove that Hong Kong will not be in any way an incubator for people who want to undermine the government in Beijing. So that's what it's all about. The second thing is, it's a way of intimidating and scaring people inside Hong Kong that they'd better not be critical of the government, because not only will they be in trouble in Hong Kong, they will be in trouble wherever they go in the world.
They will be dealt with under the law. We don't seek to exterminate them. In fact, if they go through our correctional services system, we will try to rehabilitate them.
What gives Hong Kong the right to target foreigners, people in other countries? Kevin Yam is an Australian citizen. Why are you targeting an Australian citizen?
Hong Kong citizens have been put on hit lists by other governments, but we don't yell at them because our citizens are subject to their laws. Why should Australia be so outraged?
In this once freewheeling city of freedom, the effort to silence and intimidate is as unrelenting as it is ugly. Dissidents' families have been targeted, supporters arrested. The clear aim is to cut them off socially and financially. How far do China's tentacles reach?
I think they're everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
And in every country, every corner, they're watching you, watching us. That's China. But then let them watch. I'm talking in front of the camera, so watch me. And I'm talking to you, China. That's my attitude.
Now on a temporary bridging visa, Ted Hui is grateful for the support he's received here in his adopted home. But it's the fate of those left behind that he and Kevin Yam worry about most.
I think a lot about a good friend of mine called Chow Hang Tong. She's been in jail for a long time.
Chow Hang Tung is one of 260 democracy activists arrested for breaking the national security law. A respected barrister and politician, her crime was organising candlelit vigils to commemorate the Tiananmen Square crackdown. Still to go on trial, she faces the rest of her life in jail.
About a week or two before she was arrested and never coming out again, she and a few friends came to my place for dinner. And it was like she had no worries in the world. But after she left, and I was cleaning up my apartment, underneath the chair that she was sitting in was piles and piles of hair that dropped, which was indicative of all the stress that she was going through. Now, if she hasn't stopped resisting from jail, what right do I have not to?
I'm so sorry, Kevin. This is what happens to people.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. I mean, this is the reality.
Yeah.
That's faced by so many dissidents.
Yeah. So I think Ted and I haven't lucky. So what have we got to complain about?
We are the luckiest one.
Hello from Hong Kong. A world city like no other extends the warmest welcome to you.
In recent months, Hong Kong has been on a PR offensive. With an invitation to the world, we're back, we're stable and open for business.
See you in Hong Kong.
A message that seems completely at odds with the signals it's sending out now.
All I can say is I look forward to him and his minions having a long life so that the day will come when they're the ones being put on trial and jailed for the crimes that they've committed against Hong Kong people.
It may not have been quite what Hong Kong's hardliners had in mind, but in some ways, its moves to silence dissent have had quite the opposite effect, giving wanted activists like Kevin and Ted a profile and a platform that they intend to exploit however they can.
So this Hong Kong bounty is almost an own goal.
Definitely, because in a way we've now got to a point where what have we got to lose, right?
Do you think you'll ever be able to go back to Hong Kong?
Yes, and that's the pledge I made for myself the day I left Hong Kong with a heavy heart, that I will go back in a free Hong Kong and people will rise and we will live in glory again.
Yeah, as Arnie would say, hasta la vista, baby.
Hello, I'm Sarah Abo. Thanks for watching 60 Minutes Australia. Subscribe to our channel now for brand new stories and exclusive clips every week. And don't miss out on our Extra Minutes segments and full episodes of 60 Minutes on 9now.com.au and the 9Now app.